So every conflict can be described in two ways. So we can describe it by where it happens. That is the location. So we can also describe it from the perspective of how that conflict is carried out. That's the method of carrying out that conflict. So when we describe conflict from the perspective of where it happens, we have two types. It can be internal conflict within a person or external conflict, which is between two persons. That is describing conflict from the perspective of the location. So internal conflict is a struggle within a person. And external conflict is a struggle between a person and something or someone outside them. Now, when we describe conflict from the perspective of how that conflict is carried out, we also have two types. So it can be carried out violently. That's what we call violent conflict. When it involves fist. You see, that is violent conflict. I'm sure that is common in the family. If the man feels, I just give her. Anytime I talk to this, I normally remember one of our brother who the wife complained that he beat me. He said, I did not beat her. He said, what happened? He said, her mouth was running, her money was running, so I just give her a size. So what's the difference about giving her a size and beating her? All right, so one fist is involved. That's violent conflict. So the parties are seeking to harm each other, to destroy each other's property. They want to destroy their personality. They want to run down the other person in order to achieve their aim. One of our brothers shared this with me. They were doing student governor on the campus, University of Ilorin. So then there was two parties, and they started quarreling. So the school authorities summoned the two parties. Then they called the two of them. They summoned the two of them, the two groups. So they now say, okay, they should explain why the quarrel. The real leader of the other camp says, these people, they said they want to set also place on fire. They want to cause problem here. I want to cause problem there. And the people opened their mouth. So they talk up and down and they left the meeting. So he now asked the ringleader, where did we say we want to set so place on fire? He answered, he said, "Are we not doing politics?" I will not doing politics. But politics broke on here. Everybody watch. So, violence, conflict, want to use everything possible to damage the other person. Then one of our past conference presidents also shared this with us. There was this agitation about this pastor. They were talking. So he now said he called the Clement the focal person, and he sat him down. And then he appealed to his psyche. Well, tell me, is it true that this pastor did all of these things? He said, in the case of war, the now say, in the case of war, anything is a weapon. That's how he answered him. So he knew that the pastor did not do those things they were saying. They were only using those things as well. Mention that pastor in there. Some of us will know that pastor. But a convention still did not leave him alone. They are still engaging him here and there, and he's still a prominent leader in the convention today. Because they knew very well that whatever they were saying against him was just a weapon. So, violent conflicts, the parties are seeking to destroy each other whichever way they can do to be able to achieve their goal. No feast, no force, no cohesion. The conflict is real. It's just that it's not physical. Now, external plus non-violence conflict. External and non-violence. The struggle you have with people as Genesis 26. External conflict that has violence. Who can give me an example of that in the Bible? So people, Lot and Abraham also is non-violence because they didn't fight eventually. They only separated amicably. Those guys were quarreling among themselves. Okay, thank you, sir. Any other one? Philistine and Israel. That's a very good example. Any other one? David and Goliath. Any other one? All right. 2. Okay, Moses started. Those 2 guys that were quarreling with each other, and Moses was trying to separate. And that's external, and eventually we knew what happened. All right. When you have internal and non-violence, example of that is Jonah's example I made mention the other time. Then when you have internal and violence, a very biblical example is Judas Iscariot. In Matthew chapter 27, verse 3 to 5. Matthew 27, 3 to 5. Judas struggled with guilt within. That thing escalated into violent act against himself. He went and hanged himself. Wow. I feel like looking at 2 theories on this issue. to be able to, I'd like to talk about is John Paul Lidrack. So Lidrack talks about conflict transformation. He's a peace building scholar. And he believes that conflicts should be transformed, not just ended. So he believes that if there is conflict, that thing should cause transformation. So not to just say we have ended it, but to make whatever it is that causes that conflict to become a catalyst for transformation. And in his own opinion, if this will happen, we must not just fix the purpose of conflict on the surface. We must understand what is the relationship problem that is underneath it. So, and we must reach 3 levels of peace. The first one, if you look at this pyramid, is the personal and relational peace. The one down, the base. So if we have reached personal and relational peace, there will be individual trust and healing. Then we can proceed to societal and community peace. So we can now examine our common norms, our common habits, and see how to negotiate and make adjustments. Then we can now go to structural peace, when we are now going to have formal written agreement on whatever that is our resolution as a result of that conflict. And that can now become a working document that we will live by. So in the opinion of Lidrack, if we don't do that, it's like we are just treating the symptoms. Bípa ń pẹ̀ ká àrókò àbí pa ń pa èèkàn lórí, ṣe mọ̀ tí wọ́n bá ń pa èèkàn lórí ẹ̀ẹ̀kan, ṣe mọ̀ koríko tí wọ́n ń pè lẹ́ẹ̀kan ẹ̀ mọ́ bí èèyàn bá kàn gé orí ẹ̀ lọ ó máa tó ṣẹ́jú mélòó kó tó hù, kò ní pẹ́ rárá. Bọ́ ẹ̀ẹ̀kan yẹn wá rí kò rọrùn àti fàtú, àbó rọrùn àti fàtú ní kí ló dé ó máa ń bẹ̀yàn lọ́wọ́. So it will be like we are just trimming the head and the thing will spring up in a very little time. So we must understand the causative agent and deal with them. That is the perspective of Mr. Lidrack. The second scholar is Brent A. Strong. Brent A. Strong is a scholar of the Old Testament. When you are reading the Old Testament, particularly in the aspect of conflicts, you should read it theologically. I'm on the next slide now. So it talks about Old Testament own theological language of conflicts. So in his own view, when you are reading stories of conflict in the Old Testament particularly, he says it's about God's covenant with his people, not just ordinary human arguments. So when you read about Goliath and David, bread is strong is saying is about the covenant of God to make the people of Israel to possess Canaan. So whenever conflict you read about, as far as strong is concerned, it says that it suggests that God is at work even during conflict. So therefore we must read the Old Testament conflict more deeply, not just to manage it. And let me tell you something. This is the reason why the nation of Israel will stop at nothing to continue to have conflict with the Palestinian nations. Because they believe that when they engage in conflict with them, it's about establishing the covenant of God with them as a nation. All right, so let me leave those two scholars and let's tidy up for this evening. So, how do you now shine the light through conflict management? We will look at the story of Abraham, that Genesis 26, and then I will stop there. Please let's go back to Genesis 26. We just pick a few verses, about 4 points, and then I will stop. In verse 16, now the people says, "You are too powerful for us." So that is what the Abimelech told Isaac. So that is looking beyond the problem of water and the herdsmen. On the surface, it may be herdsmen that are quarreling. But the issue that is behind that conflict is deeper than that. It's a problem of fear, a problem of envy. Envy. All right. And so on and so forth. So if you want to solve that problem, and you decide to say, okay, let's do roster. Monday. So you see that real peace is only acquired when you address the underlying fear and envy, not just by water issue.